Yeah, so I'm gonna kind of go a little bit further and talk about Tears of the Kingdom's coming up, and obviously it's been a hot topic for me. I'm really excited about it, having played Breath of the Wild. However, I'm really tired of seeing all of these articles out there that are trying to make The Legend of Zelda, and specifically Link, something that he never has been or never will be. And that is not himself. We've got, there's an article here, from Screen Rant saying that Tears of the Kingdom needs a playable character besides Link or Zelda, which makes no sense to me because then it wouldn't be a Legend of Zelda game. Like the whole that'd be like saying I want a Mario game, but I don't want to play Mario. What the heck does that doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
How?
Here we come.
How does it make sense?
Look at all the other iconic IPs. Mario, you can play as Luigi. Donkey Kong, you can play as his nephew Diddy Kong. If you look at, there's several instances where you can play as the main characters. Look at Sonic. You can play as Sonic. You can play as Knuckles. You can play as Tails. It doesn't take away from the experience of the narrative of the game, but it gives you variety in playing someone different than the same character over and over and over again. Even if it's just a color difference, you feel like you're playing somebody different. So I feel like there could be value in having someone other than Link as a playable character, and it would not take away from the experience.
Nick, what do you think? You're a big Zelda fan.
Yeah, I mean, okay, like the thing is that most of those franchises established very early on that you could play as other characters, right? Like Super Mario Brothers, you were playing as Luigi
from the get-go,
from the first NES platformer, right? And even as far back as Super Mario's Brothers Versus, right before it was even Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's most of those, and even Donkey Kong had that concept in there very early. But I mean, Zelda has historically been a game that you typically play as one character. So I think it's more one of those things where it would be interesting, yes. And I will say this, Majora's Mask did delve into this, right? Where some of those masks would give you different abilities or make you kind of one and the same with certain races in the game.
Almost like a kid chameleon.
Pretty much, yeah. Ooh,
which just dropped.
That's a good pull.
Just dropped on the Nintendo Switch
on
Online
the Genesis. I love it. Yeah,
so there you go.
There was a good drop this week with that stuff.
That was a good one.
But I think that most people historically associate Zelda games with playing as Zelda. Now, here's what I'll say.
Or Link.
Link. Yeah, as Link. These days, yeah, you got me, Brad.
Bruno.
What I'll say is, the reason I said Brad. The reason I said Brad is because he had the biggest grin on his face, like, got him. He walked right into my trap like he said it. I was looking right at Brad when I said it because I knew he was proud of himself. I was proving his point for him. That's why I said it. But no, Tears of the Kingdom, what I think is really unique about it is that we're going to have the ability to actually play alongside the companions as opposed to having them. Think about how many Zelda games or games in general do this, where you'll have a sidekick, right, that'll be with you. But then conveniently, whenever the action starts, that person is nowhere to be found, either because they're not combat savvy or just some sort of plot convenience, or the game just ignores the fact that you have a companion with you. And the Zelda franchise has definitely been like that. So I'm definitely excited because that's going to be a huge change from Breath of the Wild, where you did interact with these champions, right? But not in a way that typically had them fighting with you. They would help you in some ways, but this is going to be a whole different ball game. I think just the fact of having them as a companion. Now, if you can actually take them with you beyond just their story sections, right? Beyond their zones, that would be huge. I don't expect that. That would be icing on the cake. But I don't think I really see a need, but beyond maybe like a DLC thing. I wouldn't really expect or want the base game to try and delve too much into play as all these different characters.
I agree.
The game is going so hard with just being able to connect any weapon you want. You can be who you want.
Well, here's the thing, right? That's my problem. My problem is we have games like that. We have games where you can choose your character. There's Hyrule Warriors where you can literally play as the champions from Breath of the Wild, and it's almost like a prequel to Breath of the Wild. that you can play and experience all of that. I think to the benefit of the people that want this, it does show how special the Zelda series is to people and the world that they have created, that they want to create, or they want to have another playable character in this world. However, historically speaking, you're right, Nick, the games that Brad mentioned have really set themselves up to have multiple characters within that franchise, and it was never one where you had to play as that particular person. And I look at some of the times we've tried to change that up. Looking at you, Halo 5 Guardians, right? Like, a lot of people did not like the campaign because they introduced Spartan Locke. But then again, if you go back to Halo Reach, something that didn't even have Master Chief in it, everyone loved that story. So it can be done well, I think. I don't think that Link is that character, but it's been a topic of discussion since before Breath of the Wild had come out. There was a Kotaku article that said some people think Link might be a girl. A lot of people think that, you should be able to choose whether you want Link to be a boy or a girl or whatever, which goes, in my opinion, against the lore and story that Nintendo has built with Link. They've released an entire encyclopedia compendium of the history of Hyrule, right? A beautiful book that told how the story fits into every single game. And people are basically saying, nah, I want Link to be a girl. I want to be able to choose to be a girl. Why? What does that get you? That's my opinion. Like, it doesn't benefit anyone really. And it alienates what core fans have grown to love about the franchise. I think it's worth pointing out, though, I will say, that maybe it's time that we dove into a different playable character of the Legend of Zelda, where it's actually Zelda. I think that has merit. Why would you want to change Link into a girl before we could go on Zelda's adventure and see what she's been doing, the former goddess Hylia, right? That's my opinion of the matter. So
yeah,
Bruce his hot take, everybody.
You know how the Philips CDI made those really bad Zelda games that were so bad that Nintendo vowed to never license out anything to anybody ever again?
Yeah.
They had one where you played 2 games where you played as Zelda, and they were both god awful. So I'm sure they're still a little salty based on that.
But we've seen them change that up, right? We've seen Luigi's Mansion. To Brad's point about playing as another character. Luigi's Mansion is beloved by fans, and it took the same aspect and kind of flip the script, similar to how Hyrule Warriors is. I don't think it's right to try and force a different character into Link's story and into the world that of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. What we're doing, I think that, as I've said before, even with movies, women deserve their own stories, right? They deserve not to be adapted to a man's previous story or anything like that. They deserve their own story, and Zelda has her own story. Why not explore that in its own world, right, where it's more about her and there are different powers and stuff like that, but outside of what is the normal Zelda Legend of Zelda series, right? Like, have it be its own thing. So just my hot take.
Quit the Bill.